this is Mrs. Schnowske and Miss Anderson, and we're going to go over the rules for exponents in Chapter 8 for Algebra 1. The major rules that kids need to know are if you have exponents of zero, negative numbers, negative exponent. When you're multiplying exponents with the same base. If you have powers to powers, what do you do for those? And how do you divide exponents? Anderson, want to go over the zero rules?
So when 0 is in the exponent, so we can see here we have 5 to the 0 power, it's always going to equal 1. So we can say 5 to the 0 is equal to 1. Now if we look at the second example, we see that we have a whole expression inside the parentheses. So 3 times x squared times y, and all of that is to the 0 power. Since all of it's to the 0 power, all of it equals 1.
Okay, next one, we have negative exponents. I always like to think of the song off of Madagascar, I like to move it, move it. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to move anything that has a negative exponent, not a negative coefficient, just the exponents. So here, this is 7 to the first power, so the 7 stays exactly where it's at. The exponent that's negative here is negative 3 on the x. So think of this as being in the numerator, or it's on the top. So we need to move it to the bottom. So once you move it to the bottom, the exponent now becomes positive. Okay, this second example, this again is 5 to the first power, so we're not going to move it at all. It's going to stay on the top. This is a to the first power, so it's going to stay on top. My c, though, however, is negative, so since it's on top, we're going to move it to the bottom, or our denominator. Once you move it, the exponent becomes positive. The b is in the denominator, it's on the bottom, and it's negative, so now we are going to move that to the top, and we're going to make that positive. Again, remember to keep your variables in alphabetical order, so a goes before b.
Alright, now we're going to talk about multiplying them and what we should do with our exponents. So we have y cubed times y squared times y. Now you have to remember that this y has an exponent of 1. So when we add those together, we keep our base the same. So we're going to keep our y, and we're going to add all of the exponents together. And we can say we have y to the 6th power. Now, if we look at our next one, we're going to take our coefficients, so negative 2, 5, remember this is a negative 1 here in front of the a, so negative 2 times 5 gives us a negative 10 times a negative 1 would give us a positive 10. And now we're going to combine our a's, so I have a to the 4th, a squared, and a to the negative 2. So I have 4 plus 2, which is going to give me 6. And then subtract 2, which would give me a to the 4th. Then b, we're going to combine those. So I have a negative 5 plus 8 gives me 3. And then remember we have that 1 with the b. So we have b to the 4th.
Okay, for dividing power to powers, got ahead of myself. For power to power, first off, the reason we come up with this rule is this means I have d to the 2nd, and then I have 4 of those. So if you remember, this would be d to the 2nd times d to the 2nd times d to the 2nd times d to the 2nd. So we would add all of those up. So 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, or it would be quicker to do 2 times 4. So that's why we get d to the 8. So our rule here, if you're struggling, I always tell kids to rewrite it this way, and then go back to the rule that lets you see that that would give you 2 to the 8. So you're going to multiply your exponents. Now this one, we got a couple things going on here. We have a negative exponent, so whatever's inside here needs to be moved to the denominator, and then we're going to change the exponent to positive. So we have to put something on the top, so we're going to put 1 on top, and then I'm going to move the 3, f to the 5th, and g to the 2nd to the denominator. Okay. So the 1 is going to stay on top, and then I'm going to think of like this, similar to the distributive property, we're going to pass out our exponent. So this is 3 to the 2nd power, this is 3 squared, this is a coefficient, not an exponent. So 3 squared is 9. Then we're going to do power to power. So this says I have 5 to the 5th times 5 to the 5th. Okay, there's 2 of those. So 5 times 2 is going to give us 10. G to the 2nd squared. So power to a power, we are going to multiply. Gives us G to the 4th. Okay, so treat the exponents like you always would, but the exponents you're going to have to multiply. Coefficients, treat them as normal. Now we're dividing. Ms. Anderson.
All right, so when we look at the division, we're going to subtract our exponents if they have the same base. So we have h's here, so I can subtract my 2 exponents. So I have 7 minus 2. Okay, we take our top one, subtract the bottom one, and we can say this is h to the 5th power. All right, if we look here, we subtract these. I have 3 on the top and 8 on the bottom. So when I subtract those, I'm going to get a negative number. So this is going to stay on the bottom. We can also see the larger numbers on the bottom, so it's going to stay down there. So 1, and then if I subtract those, I get 5, so 1 over n to the 5th power. Then looking at the last one, if I have a negative 2 and I'm subtracting a negative 4, well, if we write this out, we're going to have a and then negative 2 minus a negative 4. So I have negative 2 plus 4. That gives me a positive 2. So I have a to the 2nd power.
There are your rules for exponents.